A few days ago, Automobilista 2 received yet another update. And with this update, we've got some polish, some AI improvements, a bunch of little features and knickknacks, and, crucially, a new track and a new car. Or rather, a new old car for us to drive. So, in this video, I'm going to be taking out the new old car, specifically the 1974 Porsche RSR, for a bit of a qualifying and race, and we're going to talk about how it drives and what we think of the current version of the simulator. Welcome back to the Game & Muscle YouTube channel. Click that like button and subscribe if you enjoy bold gits driving badly. So, we've got the qualifying session here. I have gone for the Nürburgring because it's a track I know, and if I'm talking and driving, well, that makes things a hell of a lot easier if it's a track I know. If I'm talking and driving and it's the new track, it's probably not going to be a good video. Well, unless you like to see me driving to walls, which I know some of you do. So, first time properly out in the car. Now, I'll be honest. I will be honest here. I mean, can you ever trust a YouTuber? I don't know. I'll be honest. I did do 2 laps in this car around the other new track that's in the game, the Salvador Street Circuit, which is a track I believe was in Automobilista, I believe. So I did take the car out briefly to make sure it handled, like, to set it up quickly. But I haven't actually done a proper race in it, and I haven't driven it in anger or, you know, driven it hard. I've just got things set up nicely, a bit of pre-prep. Also, you'll notice the track here is set up so that the track is fully gripped in. One of the settings you've got for the tracks in Automobilista 2 is that you can set the track grip level to either progress with the race and with what's going on, or you can just set a value so it's already fully gripped or green or whatever you want, which is quite nice because it means if I'm just jumping in or you're just jumping in, you can have a track that bites as much as the track's ever going to bite. And you can see on the road surface here that it's really dark into the braking zones because presumably that's where the most rubber build-up would be. Now, as you can see, driving this car out, this is a 1970s car, so you're not expecting monster grip, you're expecting monster slip. Older vehicles tend to be a little bit more weighty, tend to have a little less lateral bite on the tyres, a lot of suspension lurch, and in my opinion, as a result, older vehicles tend to drive in a more exciting way for the most part. you have to drive them sideways, or you don't have to drive them sideways, but you're going to end up driving them sideways when you're trying to get the most out of them. Also, really nice, I'm using the H-pattern Fanatec sequential H-pattern, is it Fanatec 1.5 SQ? The one that could go from H to sequential, and that's quite a nice shifter. I'm using that. And obviously the Mecha Cup 1 pedals at the moment, heel and toe in through the gears. Really good fun. Vintage cars, again, the process of driving with vintage cars, it can be a little bit of a chore if you're doing longer races, but the process is actually quite nice. It's nice to break things up. Look at the vehicle in front. So, first things first, seeing as we're in quali air, I will say this vehicle's actually really quite progressive and quite pliable. I mean, look at that, I've just absolutely wangled it into first gear incorrectly there too soon, and nothing crazy happened. Really, really controllable slides, really nimble, really nice on the throttle. Look at that. Look at the car model, guys. I'm a bit of a weirdo for Porsches, I'll be honest. I was in London recently, and for some reason loads of people, Ferraris and Porsches seem to be the cars of choice. Tesla, Ferrari and Porsche. Didn't see any Lambos. I saw like 8, 9 Porsches over the course of 2 days in London this weekend. Anyway, personally I love Porsches. I think visually they're like, they're not overstated, they're not over the top, they just look sexy. They're like the Ukrainian DD girl of cars. And the Porsche race cars are exactly the same. But look at, I mean, look at that. Look at the, just look at it. What words can I use to describe it? Just a really nice vehicle. Nice headlights there as well. Nice little bit of bloom as the AI dabs on the brake. This is with AI on 90% difficulty. But yeah, so far, this is, you know, I'm not having to do anything crazy to understand what's going on. I am using the Affialte. That's it, video flagged for talking about what force feedback I'm using. The Affialte force feedback file still. I think it's 4.3 is the version I'm using, which I found to be the most communicative custom force feedback file for Automobilista 2, in that you, with the default force feedback in Automobilista 2, when you get to the limit in a lot of the cars and start sliding, it's almost as if the force feedback turns off in some ways. You just lose detail. But with this Affialte file, you seem to have a lot more information whilst you're already in a slide, and more information for car load and more information for the sort of lateral bite through the corners feel of the car, if that makes sense. There might be some new force feedback files that are nicer than that, but I feel like this Affialte file gives me the information I need to drive from. So that's, I'm not actually that picky with force feedback. As long as I can feel like there's a good range of information coming from the sim, I'm happy. Live for Speed, Assetto Corsa, new race room force feedback. I might like one or the other more or less, but give me a range of force feedback signals that somehow align to sort of G-forces and the tyre slip, and I'm happy. I'm an happy shopper. That's all we need. Right. So this is driving really nicely, I say. I think I'm not absolutely pushing it, and we do have maximum track grip here. It is going a little bit into, you know, wanting to get stuck into understeer a little bit through some of these corners, but with vintage cars, you kind of get that. If you go slightly too hot into a corner, or you're pushing it, you're trying to push it too hard through a corner, that's kind of to be expected, that you don't have the absolute monster bite that you get from modern cars. I will say as well, I am having to use the brake quite aggressively to get the nose turned in. In terms of car setup, what I tried to do, because as you guys know, and I still feel this is an issue with Automobilista 2, I don't think it simulates the rear diff properly on vehicles. It's the driving technique used for Automobilista 2 is like how you drive a go-kart, in that you really have to use the brakes aggressively to get the back turned in, or you have to throw it in to get a momentum turn. You can't, particularly with any car that's got a diff on it, you can't roll it into the corners very smoothly relative to any other simulator. So anyway, I did reduce the rear diff to try and roll it in more. Fortunately with this car, that's the end of quality. Fortunately with this car, you just have to lean on the brakes really hard and move the brake bars further back. You get on the brakes harder, you turn in harder, that'll make the back come out more. That might get more or less frustrating when we're actually trying to race it harder and do better, but as it is, the car's quite pleasant to drive then. The qualifying, I've set the race for us to be starting right at the back to make it more interesting. I hope I haven't set the AI too skilled. I've not actually driven vintage cars that much in Automobilista 2 to know how good the AI are with vintage cars in this sim. Okay, I probably should have put them high. I'm going to let them just drive off a bit. I should have put the AI to a harder setting. We'll see. We'll let them drive off. We'll see what happens. But I will say, one of the really nice things with Automobilista 2, and I think one of the sort of biggest selling points of Automobilista 2 is it being a singular package. It being a defined package. Obviously, you still have to get the DLC and stuff. But it is all a sort of cohesive unit. In that, like with the update that just came out recently, Steam does the update, you load the game up, it's all there, it's all in a chunky singular unit. Bob's your uncle, Fanny's your aunt, you're in racing. And that applies to like the AI and the fact that they've started to develop more of like a single player into Automobilista 2 as well, with like the career or the sort of championship mode you can set up. And with each update, Reza have been really, really active in polishing the AI paths and the AI response. In fact, even in the last update, when the listed whoa, he's braking early. Oh, one of the listed improvements is them tweaking again the sort of AI aggression in terms of how the AI moves around traffic and everything. But this is the thing. If you were looking for like a sort of package of a game type situation, you just want to have something on Steam. You bought it, then you don't have to think about it too much. And especially if you're playing VR, and especially if you're a single player racer, I think that's where Automobilista 2 really makes the most sense. Obviously, if you're into your sort of multiplayer racing, you're much better off using like Race Room Ranked Racing, which is incredible, or even like AC, the Assetto Corsa Race U and Sim Racing System and stuff, or iRacing. But for the single player stuff, I think this is where Reza has a real position to shine due to the packaging of the game, it all being a single thing, the content they've got, that's where it makes most sense to me. Look at this N64 golden controller Porsche in front of us. That's actually quite nice. Oh man, do you guys remember that golden N64? £270 that cost. Came with GoldenEye though, so it's clearly worth like £1 million. Golden N64, golden controller. I never had the golden N64, but I did have a golden N64 controller. Oh, it was just the bottom of it that's gold. The top was white, but the light, it was in a shade, so I'm colourblind. Bamboozle there. Oh man, these cars look beautiful. So look at that, really nice progressive slide. And I will say, despite my reservations of Automobilista 2 off the throttle with lift-off oversteer, partly I think again because the diff always acts as if it's somewhat locked or very, very stiff, the cars hook up in Automobilista 2 on the throttle really, really well. Like, you have so much throttle control in Automobilista 2, it's almost a bit absurd. It's like how you get the car through the corner, you just give it more throttle. But I actually quite enjoy that. I actually like driving on the throttle. For me as a sim racer personally, I have more skill driving on the throttle than I do using the brake. So though I complain about that diff thing in Automobilista 2, ironically it's actually more favourable to my driving technique. Here we go. Look at that. So these cars have got a nice bit of poise to them and move around nicely, and actually they've got a good initial response as you turn in. Once you've got onto the tyres, they do start getting into that sort of, you're on the sliding on the tyre grip, so there's not going to be that immediacy of response because you've not got the poise of the suspension. When you're in a straight line and you've got that suspension poise and weight moving around, it's a lot easier to move around. Once you're already in a turn, the weight and everything is already going in one direction, so you lose the agility. But the agility you have when you're straightened up on this is fantastic. It's really nice to have a car that's actually nice and nice and poisey. I think comparing with other driving simulators, though I personally think that iRacing's tyre model is complete shite at the limit, under the limit, and before you lean on the tyres, iRacing has really good immediacy to the cars and really good poise to it, which is often lacking in a lot of simulators. But I say with this car here, this is giving me that kind of almost pushing wide off the track and murder traffic cone. This is giving me that almost initial immediate poise, which is quite nice. Here we go. Balance the throttle out there. Hold the slide a bit. Nice. I think obviously having the fully rubbered in track is making this nice and easy to drive as well, and making it a bit more responsive. When the track's not got full grip, you will definitely find with this car, and a lot of cars in Automobilista 2, that they can be a bit reluctant to get the nose to bite in. There are ways to improve that with setup, but obviously you need the grip there. If you want to get good response out of cars, you need a nice bit of grip. But this is great. This feels like a really nice polished car, Nothing is Other than the lack of lift-off oversteer, he's obsessed. He won't shut up about it. What's wrong with this guy? Other than that, the rest of it feels really quite nice. I'd say maybe it does have a bit of the trampoline aspect to it. It's very much Automobilista 2 and Project Cars 2 aspect of suspension being very, very bouncy. I'm not sure what causes that. I know some of it's to do with the visual onboard camera, but relative to other simulators, cars definitely seem very bouncy in Automobilista 2 and Project Cars 2. Whoa, we hit the break point there. Look at the AI squirming in front of each other, battling. Whoa! Whoa! It's just stopped on the... What are you doing? It's not a good year for him. Can I get on the inside here and block the other car? There's another AI coming from behind. Not sure why that guy just parked it on the track there. That was really weird. Oh! Give it a bit of opposite lock. If you're on a lower end steering wheel and you're driving something like this, so like let's say you're on a T300, which is still a really good bit of kit. I'm not having a go at you. I had a G25 for years, absolutely loved it. But if you're on like a G25, T300, maybe even if you're on like a CSL Elite or something, I mean, I wouldn't describe a CSL Elite as a low-end wheel. It's obviously not a DD, but if you're on any of those wheels, with cars like this where you sometimes have to be very active with your counter steer, I really, really recommend maybe running a lower wheel rotation and also a tighter steering lock in the simulator, so you don't have to move the wheel as much to catch slides. And because of doing that, you'll find that the motor on your lower end wheel, it doesn't have to work as hard to push the wheel around to stay in sync with the driving simulator. If you've got a direct drive wheel, in my case I'm using the Fanatec Podium DD, there's no worries because the force feedback's strong enough to basically keep the car, it will automatically, the self-aligning forces from the steering and the force feedback will do a lot of the grunt work for you, so you don't have to do too much as a driver to catch the car. Makes it driving a lot easier. So if you're struggling with old cars with those wheels, maybe run lower rotation and tight steering in the sim. There you go. That's a game of muscle. Too old. Sim racing for too long and sim racing on low-end equipment in the past for too long. Pro tip. Look at this. Let's get in there. So I definitely should put the AI on harder, but this has allowed us to just enjoy the drive here. I think if you're a fan of vintage cars, you'll really like this, you know. I think most people really like this. I think even people that are largely skeptics of Automobilista 2, this has pretty nice handling dynamics to this car. And with older vehicles like this, with them being so sort of boaty, you really do have to drive them very preemptive. So you get the satisfaction. It's almost like you're doing drifting, but in a more race context. But you get that satisfaction of trying to really neatly get the line, really neatly get the flow, really neatly hook up the power without causing too many trouble from getting onto the power. Oh, the wrong line around there. This is the final lap here. Can we finish this in first? I should do with the difficulty we put the AI on. This is allowing us to do monster slip angles with no... Look at that, just wedged on the brake there. No real issues. You can basically catch anything with this. might have to try driving this in the wet. That would be absolutely ludicrous. I think it's quite tricky to feel the point at where where you get past the limit of the braking to the point where it starts locking, and I think I am actually having to be a little bit overactive on the steering to bring it back in. This car is very responsive to the steering, but the R to force feedback's really nice there, where I can feel it loading up a bit, so I'm getting warning through the force feedback as to if I'm going to put more brake on, if that will cause it to go past the point of no return. And as you can see, we've literally just jumped into this, and I'm driving this without really... We're not going that fast, but I'm driving this without having to concentrate too much, which I think if you're not, if you're not absolutely poning it, you're not absolutely on the limit, any vaguely well simulated race car, if you've got like multiple thousands of hours of practice of sim racing, you should be able to just drive them. Not necessarily the best, not necessarily within a second or half a second of pace, but you should be able to drive them okay. Like, here we go. Let's go for the dive bomb. Oh! 1, 2. Oh, squeeze through. Absolutely abusing the AI there. The blue car there went for a move around, last minute dive out to the left there for the NGK chicane. That was nice. Good little AI manoeuvre there. It's been good practice if you're newer to sim racing. This sort of level of difficulty and this type of car handling will get you really in tune with the actual, getting in touch with actually handling the cars and driving them. There we go, though. That was our first ever race in this vehicle. I think that's pretty sweet, to be honest. I think this car actually drives pretty nicely. I don't know if my opinion would change more when it comes to putting more time into it and actually trying to race it against people that are, when you're trying to be super, super precise, you start to then notice the more subtle things that then grate on you progressively. But for a casual AI race, it's absolutely really nice. Runs totally smooth as well. Not bad. So, Jesus, guys. One of the reasons why I make Automobilista 2 videos is just to upset the AMS2 fanboys, because they really annoy me. But what a failure! I'll be honest here. This is actually really quite good. So you obviously want to know how many tea bags it gets out of 10. Let's pull out onto the grass, and I will say as well. Look at that grass. Just appreciate the individual blades of grass there. Beautiful. So, how many tea bags are we giving this? Let's put the replay on the background so you can see it move. Look at that. Look at the slide, and look how thick those wheels are. They're thicker than the British Prime Minister. Absolute chonkuses. Look at the compression on them as well. Here's the last lap dive bomb. Nice that you just got an instant replay system in the game, which they did a few updates ago. All really nice to access. You got muscled, guys. So, how many tea bags do I give this? Oh! I might be giving this like 6.5 tea bags. 6.5 tea bags, I think. I'm honestly surprised at how much fun that was. I wasn't expecting to be as good as it was. I think I've got a bit of a weak spot. I'm a bit too... I'm less critical of vintage cars. If the more sideways it is, the better it is. It's scientific fact without any evidence. Well, let me know what you guys think of this car if you jump into it. We'll have to jump in and do some multiplayer racing with this. So if you want to catch us online for our live streams, remember to click the like button. Remember to subscribe, and then you'll be notified when we go live. Also, you've got to click the bell and all that rubbish. YouTube doesn't actually like promoting YouTubers. Obviously, I've got a Discord as well. Join on that. Link in the description. Twitter, Instagram. I only post nudes on the Instagram. So if that's what you're into, Instagram's great to follow as well. I think it's just Game of Muscle. But until the next one, guys, thank you very much for watching this. Happy sim racing, happy tea drinking, and goodbye.